Well, hello and welcome to another week of my allotment. And ideally, I'd be outside showing you a sunrise on a perfectly still, beautiful morning. Well, it ain't like that today, let me tell you. The wind is howling. This will be causing structural damage all over the country. We've got it a lot milder in the south, I believe. But in the north, they're talking about 60-mile-an-hour winds or stronger, gusting stronger. Well, when the trees are in full leaf, that's when you get trouble, and this wind is going to cause structural damage. So I hope we don't hear of any disasters tonight on the news. Not that I watch the news. I haven't watched the news now for 3 weeks, and it's marvellous. When you don't watch the TV, all this current crisis just goes away. It's marvellous. And this week on my episode, I'm going to show you a few clips of me at work, just to give you a better... And you know, for those who are regular viewers, you know I've put some clips on of me working on the riverbanks at the Bigswear estate in the Wye Valley. But that's only 1 day a week. The rest of the time I work in Chepstow. And I'll show you a few clips of me working at the Chepstow Garden Centre, where I maintain the grounds, and then doing my favourite job of the week, sitting on a sit-on lawnmower, mowing a lawn. It's not all hard work. So there's a few clips of that. There'll be a few clips. It's Friday today, so I'm hoping to put a few clips on of our walk tomorrow, and then a few bits and pieces of what I've been up to this week. Well, what have you been up to this week, Martin? I hear you say. Well, thank you for asking. It can be summed up in one word, really: planting. Everything in the cold frames, flowers, vegetables, everything and anything that I can get in the ground, I've been doing over the last few days. We had a little bit of drizzle last night, nothing that would have ever touched the plants, and I think there's a bit more forecast early tomorrow morning, but other than that, lots of watering. So yeah, been busy this week on the plot. Today it's ferocious out there. I'm sitting in the shed when I had a brew earlier, and the sides of the shed are vibrating and moving in and out with the wind. And sometimes you look around and you're just waiting for something to happen, a tree to snap, a runner beam frame to collapse, you know, who knows. Anyway, it's an interesting day. The weather in Britain is unique. It's lovely. Good with the bad. But well, before we go and have a look at a few clips, I thought I'd do my little bit of niff-naff and trivia, because I had a request. And please excuse me wearing these awful glasses while I read some notes I took. And there was one from a chap called Len from Felixstowe. So thank you, Len. I appreciate your comment and getting involved. And it's an ill wind that blows nobody good. I'm sure you've heard of the phrase, and it's an ill wind. And again, that comes from naval days and was first referred to in a book in 1545. And of course, an ill wind, battles of the line, all the way back then, of ships of the sail, could be won and lost because of the wind. And that was the first reference in a maritime book of 1546. And nowadays there's a slight twist on it, because nowadays it can be used to mean, one thing that happens is bad to one person, but it's good to another. So if there's heavy rain one night and it floods one person out, that same heavy rain could put out a fire in somebody's property somewhere else. It sort of balances itself. So that was an interesting phrase. And I've got a couple more. One in particular. To cut off your nose to spite your face. And while I was looking up, it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good, I came across this one on a website. And we've all heard that phrase, he's biting off his nose to spite his face. Turns out, and if you're eating or if you're of weak disposition, switch this off now, but it has a literal meaning. It goes all the way back to the 12th century, when attractive women would very often disfigure themselves to preserve their virginity. That's awful, isn't it? One, that they feel the need to do that, and two, that they would, and of course it very often involved cutting off the nose, which was quite popular, you know, I use that word advisedly. It was quite popular both as a torture and as a self-punishment, because obviously it was so visual. And in fact there was one very famous case of a Mother Superior in a convent up in the northeast, that as the word came that the Vikings were coming and they knew that rape and pillage would follow, that the Mother Superior cut off her nose and advised the nuns to do the same, so that the Vikings would leave them alone. And the nuns followed suit. When the Vikings arrived, they were so disgusted, they locked the nuns in the monastery. Is that the right word for nuns? I don't know. And burnt it to the ground. That's a really awful story, and I'm sorry to bring such an awful thing on a gardening episode, but you know, these phrases, we use them so loosely, and yet some of them have some awful origins. I did hesitate to use that one because it's so bloody miserable and so unbelievable. We do, I mean, everyone says, oh, we live in dangerous times. Jesus, we do not live in dangerous times. These are the safest times we've ever had. And if people are scared of coronavirus, imagine living in the northeast or anywhere down the east coast of England when the Vikings arrived. Good grief, we don't know what frightening means, do we? Anyway, I digress. What was the other one I wrote down? Oh yeah, to break the ice. I thought after that sort of low point, I'd better cheer it up a bit. And the phrase "to break the ice," as we all know, means to get to know somebody a little better and warm the atmosphere. And that comes from the days of expeditions to Canada. And very often going into the Great Lakes, into Hudson Bay, etc., English ships and French ships would get locked in with the ice and would be trapped. And there are recorded cases of the frontiersmen and the locals that they were coming to, and I suppose that must include the Hudson Bay Company. They would go out on the ice and break the ice to get the ship in. I mean, obviously there's a bit of self-interest there, they must have had supplies, so that the two groups of people could meet. And that's where the phrase comes from, to break the ice and to get to know you better. It's a bit more cheerful, isn't it? So, let's go and have a look at a few clips of me this week. It's an absolutely stunning view across to the Brecon Beacons. Our lunchtime destination. What a beautiful spot.
I've got a pen, have we?
Ah.
Lovely.
Leaving an entry in the visitor's book. Wonderful little spot for lunch. Really memorable. However, now, time to walk back to Chepstow. Cheers. Well, it was a cracking walk yesterday. 14 miles. We're all a bit sore, but a beautiful place to visit. Actually, it was recommended by John. He knew about the chapel and said it was a beautiful place to stop. So we planned a walk around it, and it was very worthwhile, and I'm grateful to him. So it's Sunday morning. It's 5:05 in the morning. I've been up here, you can see the fire's well lit. I've been up here since about 4:30. I just woke up and thought, right, let's go. It was dark. And, you know, I'm not filming outside, so I think you can guess it's not one of those beautiful sunrise moments. It's bitterly cold out there. And I thought, well, you can't have a fire, surely. I mean, we're damn near in the summer. And I thought, well, hang on, it's cold. If it's cold, I can have a fire. And my legs burning. So, I've got all day up here. I think the girls might come out later, I'm not sure. But lots to do. We had a little bit of rain yesterday, but I think I might have to water the beans and the peas and so on. And more weeding, really. More plants to put in. I said a couple of days ago that, you know, it was all about the planting. And it still is. There's still a bit more to go in. So I'm going to take it nice and slow today because I've got most of it done. I'm going to sit and enjoy this fire for an hour. And then maybe if it warms up, I mean, it's meant to be up about 18 degrees today. And I'm sure it will be, but right now it's bitter out there. So I'm going to have a cup of tea. I might even have a little lay down on the bench. Enjoy the fire. Really special. I think it's as good as a sunrise. And then I'll set to work. It's another windy day. It's been windy now for 3 days, so I'm not sure how much filming I'll get done out there. But I'd like, before I finish today, I'd like to walk you down and show you how the plot's going. I might do that before I do anything else, because the wind will be as little as it's going to be. We shall see. But anyway, good morning to you. Cheers. Christ, that's hot. Oh, and I did just want to show you the 2 parsnip tubs. I've weeded those out with my fingers now, and that's made it a little more clear where the parsnips are. The one on the left has got quite considerably more, so I might try and transplant some of those. Either way, they've got to be thinned out because they're a bit close. So I might try and just dig one or two out and put them in the right hand tub. We shall see. Well, while I sit and enjoy my cup of tea in my lovely shed, I just thought I'd mention that you saw a clip of me earlier cutting the grass at the garden centre, and before I cut it I walk over it, make sure there's no stones, any dog mess, that, you know, because people walk their dogs up there while they're parked in the car park, and any other general litter that I can pick up, so that when the mower goes up and down it doesn't shred it all into 100 pieces. And this is my social observation of the day, that there's a new kind of litter. I've never understood litter. I don't understand how anyone can be so poorly brought up that they think it's appropriate to drop rubbish. But anyway, there's a new kind of litter, and have you guessed what it is yet? It's masks and gloves. These, some of them, you know, because I'm picking them up, you know, you get to look at them. And, you know, please, that's, oh Martin, you shouldn't pick them up, they've got germs on. Well, I'm not worried. I'm not interested. I pick them up and I have a look at them and I have a laugh to myself that, you know, these are hardly surgical masks. I don't know where people get them. One of them was made of neoprene. It looked more like a knee support than a face mask. But yeah, and it's disappointing that people feel the need to come out of the garden centre and just throw it on the ground, fully in the knowledge that somebody's got to clear that up. People continue to disappoint, don't they? What a shame. Anyway, just an observation as we go through these mad times. Cheers. Well, it's 11 o'clock. Certainly don't need the fire now. It's warmed up, although the wind is back. But yeah, I've had a good morning. There's a few people up here now, still not many. But lots and lots of weeding, a little bit of watering. It's nice when you get a bed properly weeded, so there's just the crop and it's in nice neat rows. It appeals to my sense of order. But one of the things I've done is I've tied up the broad beans. I put stakes in when they were first planted, but I hadn't tied them very well, and these last few days of wind have given them a bit of a bashing. So as I was tying them up, I've noticed a little bit of, well, not a little bit, but a fair bit of black fly. And I've got one of these pressure bottles that you can adjust the nozzle to a spray or a jet for my seedlings in the greenhouse, and it's up here. I used it last year for the garlic spray, which was very successful as a deterrent to the slugs and snails. Anyway, it was here, so I filled it with water and I used the sort of hard nozzle jet to spray off the black fly, and it did a fairly good job. And Barry was here and I chatted to Barry about it and I said, oh, I've just spotted black fly, and he had a look at his. He's got a lot of broad beans and he had it as well. And last year he managed to keep them at bay using an organic detergent, you know, that you use with your washing up. And so he gave me a quick squirt in one of my watering cans, and I've put that on, and we'll see. Last year, if you've been watching me for any length of time, you may remember, but I lost the whole crop of broad beans to black fly. We didn't have a single bean. The black fly infestation was so bad that all the bean pods shriveled up and it was disgusting. So I chopped it all up and put it on the compost heap. I was away. I think I was away for a week. We were away in the caravan, and I just didn't spot them arrive. And before I knew it, it was beyond control. Anyway, this year hopefully slightly different. We shall see. But that's the beauty of weeding. It's an incredibly boring job, or that's how I find it. However, it does allow you to get close to your crops, and you can study the plants while you're doing it and spot any pests and diseases, hopefully early enough that you can do something about it. So that was quite useful. Well, please excuse the wind noise, but it's 4 o'clock. I've put in a full shift, and these butternut look a bit weak, but experience tells me they'll perk up come June. The courgettes in the tubs are looking okay. This is the Atlantic Giant pumpkin, part of the competition. It's doing all right, and a courgette next to it. Spent the whole day weeding, although when I look at the beds I wonder where I was doing it. A run of beans up around the arch, lots of tomatoes. We shall see how they fare. Cucumber market more. They're all in now. Almost a full bed of leeks, and the butternut are in. This is the one bed I need to sort out. I've got to dig out all these dead gooseberries, but other than that, that's all the French climbing beans in now. Strawberries are netted. The broad beans have been tied up, so they're looking okay. Slowly but surely all my plants are being put in the ground. There's almost nothing left around here. This wind is awful, unrelenting. Let's get in some shelter. So yeah, the plot's looking good, very happy with it. Obviously there's always more to do, but I've been up here 11 hours, so it's not as if I haven't put the time in, but very pleased with the way it's going. It's just up to the things to grow now. Well, that's the end of my day up the allotment, and indeed it's the end of the week. Yeah, a week dominated by the wind, but anyway, I haven't lost anything to the wind, so that's fine. Very happy with the way it's going. I hope this episode gives you some, a little bit of interest for everybody. We had a cracking walk yesterday. None of us could barely move when we got back. 14 miles. I mean, a lot of people walk a lot further, but that was quite enough for us. So, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, you're dedicated. Thanks to all those who subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider it. All being well, I shall be back next weekend, I think. And I'll be back every weekend until the government decide that I'm allowed to go caravanning, and then I shall be off for at least a week. So, I look forward to seeing you again next week. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.